Very good evening to you and welcome. It's Friday, 13th June 2025. Mental health is real. Seek help. End the stigma. On the news this evening, Works Minister clarifies commissioning of Phase 1 of Eleme Road. Bonny Bodo Road may be commissioned in November. Posthumous awards for Ogoni 9 stir calls for full exoneration of others. Rivers cattle dealers seek grazing reserves to curb farmer-herder clashes. And on the foreign scene, black box found at Air India crash site as grieving families await answers. I am Constance Irele. Mega. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll bring you the details of the news. Do stay tuned. In detail. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, has clarified that President Bola Tinubu only commissioned the Phase 1 section of the Eleme axis of the East-West Road. Umahi made the clarification following complaints from some stakeholders who alleged that the road was incomplete at the time of the virtual commissioning by the President. Well, the minister explained that the sections causing concern were actually designated for the construction of overhead bridges. He directed the contractor to asphalt those portions within the next 7 days to ease movement for motorists.
What we did was to phase this project. Phase 1 is one full carriageway, and Phase 2 is the second carriageway and the bridges and the flyover. And so we are done with Phase 1, and that's what we commissioned, and that's one full carriageway. You may see some little disjointed portion. That is where the flyover ramps are supposed to come. But I've directed them while we wait for the superstructure of the flyovers and the bridges. They should go and put asphalt there, and I give them 7 days, so that from Eleme Junction down to Ne, you will not have any pothole, you will not have any disjointed portion, and so they are going to do that.
Well, the Minister of Works also said the second phase of the project, which is the second carriageway, will soon start as planned.
I've inspected their work. I commended them before, and I'm commending them again. They were too fast, as we agreed, to net off this one carriageway by April, which they did. So I commend them very highly. We are back to fight for the second carriageway because it's been delayed now. We are back to fight on the bridges and flyover, but I've seen the bridge expert here, and he's going to give us 80-span bridge. It's one of the newest technologies that is going to be using, and that is I'm very happy that I saw him.
Well, correspondent Soibio Ruwari reports that the Works Minister, David Umahi, also inspected the Port Harcourt-Aba Road and the Mbiama axis of the East-West Road. And that was yesterday. Similarly, the Minister of Works, David Umahi, conducted a routine inspection of federal government road projects in Rivers State today. During the visit, he said President Bola Tinubu is likely to commission the Bonny Bodo Road project in November this year. Umahi urged the contractor to speed up construction while maintaining high-quality standards.
Let me commend very, very highly Julius Berger. They have surprised me, and that's why I decided to come to the end of the project. And I'm very happy with their concrete works. I thought they were afraid of doing concrete, but from what I've seen, 5.3 kilometers of concrete already done and completed, and the difference is very clear. We have 5.3 that they have just done some filling, because we must commission this project by November. We want the president to come to LNG by November. It will be good to extend the project, by Berger, because they have pleased us very, very well.
The minister also said that when the road is finished, it will be open for use while they continue to maintain it.
And we're also going to bring in solar lights, both sides of the road. And of course, we are going to be advertising this road for operate and maintain so that the road is properly maintained. And I'm very sure that if the president comes here, he will be willing for the second carriageway, because I think the second carriageway is desirable because of the volume of traffic when we open the roads. So I'll be pleading with Beja to this 5.3, let them put their stone base, conclude the sand filling, conclude embankments.
Moving on. An elder statesman from Ogoni, Mr. Olu Andawai Ogosu, says extending the posthumous award given the Ogoni 9 to the Ogoni 4 will help bring peace and development in the area. In an interview with correspondent Emeka Utuka, Y. Ogosu said the 4 should not be left out as they all died for the same cause. He, however, thanked the president for the steps taken so far.
It's a good thing. This during such time, we should also continue to ensure that these other 4 also are given some posthumous awards so that this can be properly consolidated in Ogoni land. We know what is happening, and we believe that recognizing the 13 important people that died and there's creating room for democracy to be really practiced in the Niger Delta.
Well, as you may know, environmental activist Ken Saro-Wiwa and 12 other Ogoni leaders were executed in 1995 during the military regime of General Sani Abacha. They had accused the Nigerian government and oil companies of perpetrating ecological genocide in Ogoni land through oil spills and gas flaring. But during his Democracy Day address to the joint session of the National Assembly yesterday, President Bola Tinubu announced a posthumous presidential pardon for Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 others. But he also conferred national honors on them. However, the gesture has drawn criticism from Ogoni stakeholders who say what is needed is not a pardon, but full exoneration and recognition of the remaining 4 Ogoni leaders. Meanwhile, a political science lecturer, Dr. Anthony Egobweze, says the excitement people felt when democracy returned to Nigeria in 1999 is no longer there. Egobweze, a lecturer at the Rivers State University, spoke to correspondent Onyeka Chinwosu on the occasion of Nigeria's 26 years of uninterrupted democratic rule. He also said a cabal has hijacked governance in Rivers State to the detriment of the people.
To many, the return to democracy was considered a watershed and a triumph to more inclusive development. However, the state's 26-year democratic journey has been marked by significant nostalgic feelings. For Rivers State, the state's democracy could be described as a directed or guided democracy with a flawed party system that undermines internal democracy and engenders kakistocracy. The system prioritizes the interests of a cabal over the majority.
Well, the political scientist said the kind of politics practiced in Rivers State has caused the social infrastructure, health and education, among others, to suffer.
This has led to lack of accountability, transparency, and responsiveness to the needs of the citizens. Despite being an economic stronghold, Rivers State's economy has been impacted by political turmoil. The state's revenue generation and economic growth are hindered by insecurity, corruption, and poor governance. Indeed, the power infrastructure has faced severe challenge, and this has impacted immigration of companies from the state, leading to increased poverty.
In another development, a constitutional lawyer, Professor Richard Wokocha, says President Bola Tinubu's actions do not match his claim that he is not trying to turn Nigeria into a one-party country. Wokocha, a lecturer in the Department of Public Law, Rivers State University, made this known to correspondent Emeka Utuka. Well, he said the president's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, which goes against the Constitution, makes people question the president's true intentions.
What does the president make of his activities in Rivers State? We are contrary to the express provisions of the Constitution. He has annexed the state and is seeking to govern the state as president of Nigeria, contrary to the law. Even the Supreme Court judgment the president referred to said the country cannot be led by any way other than is prescribed in the Constitution, which is the content of Section 2, Subsection 2 of the Constitution. What is his interpretation of his ministers and other officials? They are going to foment trouble and threaten in opposition state and in position of state of emergency and all that if they don't play along.
Well, Professor Wokocha also said it is not for the president to determine whether he is promoting a one-party state, but for Nigerians to assess his actions and draw their own conclusions.
It wasn't a recent one. That was part of the incident.
for the president, it's not about what he thinks or what he believes. What he is doing is determined by his action and the action of his lieutenant in the country. Our perception is our reserved judgment. It does not lie in his mouth to say whether he is doing it or he is not doing it, because he is actively and expressly doing it. If you claim that you are not doing such things, it should show in your action. The events that led to declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State was a disgrace. I felt ashamed as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Well, recall that President Bola Tinubu, while addressing a joint session of the National Assembly in commemoration of this year's Democracy Day celebration on Thursday, debunked claims that his administration is pushing to make Nigeria a one-party state. We'll go on another commercial break now. Still to come, cattle dealers seek grazing reserves to curb farmer-herder clashes. Stay tuned.
Enforcing your deliverance from the spirit of stagnation.
Thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of the news. A resident of Maiwan Diobu in Port Harcourt City local government area, Stanley Wobo, has dismissed a viral video claiming there was a cold clash and shooting at the education bus stop in Maiwan yesterday. The video, which circulated online, showed residents and traders running for safety amid sounds of gunshots. But Wobo, who is also the Community Development Committee chairman of Rumuwoji, tells correspondent Emeka Utuka that the video was from an incident that happened weeks ago in the area, not a recent event. He said he had already reported the earlier incident to the police for appropriate action.
It wasn't a recent one. That was part of the incident we complained about as community. I'm a community chairman. We received a report of multiple court-related issues within my one axis, education, I think along people axis within those areas. That was what Matama forced for me calling government to redouble their effort to come to our aid, see that these things are curtailed.
Well, Mr. Awobo also confirmed the presence of the police and members of the Diobu vigilante in the area.
The law enforcement has been patrolling as well to Diobu vigilante. They've been complying, moving around once in a while to come down to look at the environment.
Meanwhile, the spokesperson of the River State Police Command, Superintendent Grace Iringekoko, also confirmed that the viral video was from a previous incident in the area. Moving on, the national president of the Association of Cattle Dealers, Processors and Marketers of Nigeria, Ilyasu Bulama, has urged the government to provide grazing reserves and industrial boreholes, as well as grass plantation for herders. Well, he says this will curb conflicts between cattle herders and farmers.
That were allocated and still existing. Let government utilize them and food grasses, food boreholes, industrial boreholes, grow grasses there. The plan is in Rivers State will remain in Rivers, the one in Jigawa will remain in Jigawa, the one in Lagos, in Kano. Yeah. They will remain where they are because in the grazing reserve there is a provision for grass and water, and that is what a cattle is looking for.
On his part, the state chairman of the association, God's Power, Weninda, also called for the establishment of a dedicated and functional ministry to oversee herders and farmers-related issues.
Looking at it, due to the fact that there is no ministry covering all these things, if there had been any ministry, I think that there are going to be a very big control, a law put in place to ensure that both the farmers have their own way and then the rearers or the breeders have their own way. Nobody will destroy each other's crops.
We'll recall that in 2021, the Rivers State House of Assembly passed into law the Rivers State's prohibition of open rearing and grazing bill. The then majority leader of the House, Martin Amehule, who led the debate, said the bill would address the issues of encroachment of farm produce and unlawful killings of farmers in any part of the state. In other news, the chairperson of Albinism Association of Nigeria, Rivers State Chapter, Golden Wobe Joe, says people living with albinism are faced with lack of access to human rights, social justice, and education, among others. Wobe Joe spoke with correspondent Onyeka Chinwosu as the world marks Albinism Awareness Day today. Well, Golden said many children with albinism face exclusion, bullying, and hatred in their immediate family and their schools.
We have some significance, and we have human rights and social justice and education and empowerment. That is the major problem we are having. Access to education is a fundamental right, yet many children with albinism face inclusion, bullying, and inadequate support in schools. This lack of inclusion often leads to lower educational attainment and limits for no just cause. Most challenges that we have come from our own immediate family.
Well, Wobe Joe called on to provide care in government parents of schools to prioritize the needs of children and students living with albinism.
I always tell persons with albinism, if you find yourself in a family where they hate you so much, speak out. Many of us that have children with albinism, you will go to the school, talk to the school owners. They should allow the child to be wearing long sleeves, put on caps, and they should stop them from going out for sport. Most of them that are in public schools, they dump them at the back of seats. They assume that nothing will come up on that person. But we are advising teachers in public schools to bring them closer to the board.
Well, the theme for this year's Albinism Awareness Day is demanding our rights, protecting our skin, preserving our lives.
And now, we'll bring you news from around the world.
And on the international scene, India's Civil Aviation Ministry says a black box has been found at the Air India plane crash site in Ahmedabad. Only one person survived of the 242 people on the flight headed to London from India when it crashed into a doctor's residential area shortly after takeoff on Thursday. Well, data from Flight Radar 24 showed that the crashed Boeing completed more than 700 flights in the year leading up to the disaster. The Air India plane was 11 years old. And elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump has urged Iran to make a deal over its nuclear program. In a post on his Truth Social platform, President Trump said maybe Iran has a second chance to reach a nuclear deal after Israel's strikes on the country. Well, talks between the U.S. and Iran on a nuclear deal were about to enter their sixth round on Sunday in Oman. And earlier, Iran accused the U.S. of supporting Israel's strikes, which Washington has denied. Well, that's the news, but before we go, let's take a look at the highlights. You heard that Works Minister David Umahi has made clarifications about the commissioning of the Phase 1 of the Eleme Road. Bonny Bodo Road may be commissioned in November this year. A posthumous award for Ogoni 9 has stirred calls for their full exoneration. And Rivers cattle dealers are asking for grazing reserves to curb farmer-herder clashes. On the foreign scene, the black box of the Air India plane that crashed has been found at the crash site as grieving families await answers. The news was edited by Martha Okere. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808-721-7215. I'm Constance Irele Mega. Thank you so much for listening. Good evening.